you see it?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, and it looks awesome.
Okay, so it's basically just a mock-up. I'm just testing with stuff, right? And it just keeps on going further and further, like most of my projects do. But so I got two scenarios here. One where it would be a user that would just sign up for the site, and another scenario where I'm just making a user or a creator and then attaching certain fields to them. So for this one, so let's just say I'm gonna dash the first one. So I create this person or creator, and they're gonna have associated tags, right? That they are groups of. I don't know how to do that in here. Can you see it? Make sense?
Crickets, guys.
I wasn't sure who's taking it.
So my thinking is, so I have a creator, and then here are all the creators. How do I then say, okay, well, this creator is attached with, NFTs. Well, they have like sports NFTs, right? So if you are, let's say this person's associated with the sports NFT. Well, then you would come over and you would say, okay, well, I want to only look at sports NFTs, and then all the people associated with sports NFTs would show up in this search area here. But how do I, take each creator and tag individual things to them?
Yeah, so I think so. You want to basically say this creator is these categories, right? They do things in these categories. Like sports or whatever it is. Cool. So yeah, the way to do that, then the way I would do that, what we're really talking about is like database structure at this point, right? So Cora, it's funny when you chat, it says Mark, and when I chat, it says Mark. So it's like, yeah, we're double chatting. Sorry, not to diverge, but so basically it's like database structure. We're going to create a relational database, right? So you basically need a list of categories, right? So this would be the different types of things. So in that data collection, you would have, one row for sports and another row for basically a row for each of your categories, right? Perfect. So those are different categories right there. Then what you'll have is a third data collection that sort of associates that person to that category. Right. So if let's say you had that first person was associated to 3 categories, you would have 3 records in here for that person. So you have creator ID here already, and you have is NFT ID. Is that like the category?
Well, NFT, I guess, is the category, and NFT sports is like the tag, I guess, if I'm saying that correctly. So you have your NFTs, right? And then you have all these little, I guess NFT to me would be, maybe we'll just call it a collection, but you have all the categories in it, right?
Yeah. So then on like a user record somewhere, they would need to tag themselves as collectibles and sports and whatever the things are, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that I usually call that like a relationship record, where it's a relationship between 2 other records in the database. So there's like one record of the user, one record of the category, and then I'm going to create a relationship record. And it looks like you already had that close to that in the NFT sports, right? You have the
Drew
NFT
definitely
ID.
helped me that a little.
Yeah.
Chat,
So basically somewhere you need to effectively build a UI for that user to say, I am this category, I'm this category, and I'm this category. So that would be step 1. Then you have these relationship records between them. And then from there, once you have those, you can then use filtering methods to say, first, find me all the relationship records that are of those checked off categories. Like if it's like it depends on how you're going to do the search, right? If it's just a straight search, or if it's like select this one, select this one, select this one, and you're sort of filtering. But either way, you're going to end up actually doing the search on that relationship record, which will then give you a list of the user IDs that have that category. And then you take those user IDs and get your full list of users. So that's the progression of it through. And Drew, it sounds like if you've already kind of stepped through this, is that how you would approach it? Because there are other ways to do this. And what do you think, Drew? Oh, you're muted.
My actual mic was muted. I was talking before. I'm wondering why. It seemed like no one heard me. We were talking about last week. I think I mentioned like there's two ways to do it, and what you described just now, Mark, is like the more, like I would say, the more official way, or like the better way. But I don't know. Like if the, like at a fundamental level, there's a lot of things going on here. There's like the creators, the actual categories of those tags, and then the tags, the collections and the tags. There's a lot of levels. So I don't know what would be the most helpful way to, if you're still confused about it, but I think we might want to like lay all that out, and like be really clear about each thing. Like even, I think what you were just saying, you were talking about user IDs, but actually there's another field for creators. It's not actually the user table, it's a creator table. So maybe we could just be really clear and describe it. But this concept is like, once it clicks, you apply it to literally everything you build. Like it's hard to get at first, but it's like a universal concept. So
one other thing too, in the chat, there was a good point by Micah. So doing it with relationship records, you end up with a lot of relationships, right? So if you're going to have, if you had 100,000 users in here and you have 20 categories, and on average, every one of those has, five, every creator has 5 categories, then you're going to end up with like 500,000 of these records, right? That then have to be like parsed through. So the other way to do this is, rather than having relationship records, you basically, when the creator says, I'm this type of creator, you store the ID of that category in a field, and you're basically adding to the list of IDs in a field on that creator. And it basically saves you from having this whole extra set of records at all. But it just depends on how you want to structure it effectively.
My recommendation though, for that, just to interject, is like, if you're really like experienced with building and you're gonna have an application that has that level, like that many records, then you probably know how to like parse out, arrays and like manipulate that data that you're going to need to do in the future. If you don't, like, if you're coming in fresh to Bildr and to building, I would say like the more straightforward relational structure is a lot easier to like use, if you want to display things in your app and do the filtering and the searching on the app side, it's going to be easier if you're separating those databases. I feel like, just want to mention that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for instance, let's just say there's like no users right now, and these are just creators that I'm just picking from the internet and I'm putting them on a list. How do I take each creator and then tag things to them?
So you have,
go ahead.
So you'd have that creator table that you showed.
Yep.
You have another table called tags. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but it's the list of those tags.
I think it's in there. NFT/sports is what it's called right now.
Okay.
That had the creator ID and what do you call the NFT ID, which is
where's the table of the actual tags of the ones that say
it's NFT.
NFT.
He called it NFT here.
Okay, yeah. So you have this creator table and you have this NFT table. And then our whole goal is we're going to make a third table that just stores one creator ID and one NFT ID. And so the record, you're going to have that creator ID and the NFT ID. So right there. And what you do now is, if you want to relate a creator to an NFT, we can do this right now. You'll have to go to the other tables to get the IDs, but you add a record, and then so go to the creator, pick one, and you'll copy the ID field. Yep. And then same thing for the NFT ID.
I think you grabbed the wrong ID there. Go back to
ID,
the.
Yeah. Whatever.
I think it was on NFT. Yeah, you want to grab the ID.
ID field.
Not the created by.
That's the created by field. Yeah, it's confusing because they're all.
That was still the wrong ID. Go back to NFT.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's because you created your own field called NFT
There we go,
ID,
over
but
here.
what you really want is the
Oh.
actual.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's a good point, actually. Like in this case, whenever I'm talking about IDs, we're talking about the built-in Bildr ID that comes with every database table, because that is like always unique and you know it's like locked in and always going to be the same. So it's like important to use that ID.
Okay, so in this scenario, okay, so I got those IDs in there. So now that creator is associated with that NFT collection tag. So they would be in sports.
Yep.
Now, I guess for good practice, would I add just another field? Oh, I'm sorry, not the field. Well, I would just say name, right? And this might be like, I'll just name that creator. So if I ever want to go back in there and say, oh, this creator is associated with this tag, they don't want to anymore, or whatever, and delete it. That way I'm not like, oh, well, who's this tag?
Well, it's ironically less good practice to do that in a way, but it's easier for a human. But actually, you'll always know which creator it is by that creator ID. And so it's not as easy to like read or parse through if you're just looking at this database here. But that's like the most solid way where you always know it's going to be that creator ID. Because imagine you put their name, but imagine they change their name after they have like 500 tags on their name. They change their name. You'd have to go update them all. So it's actually, it's better practice to just use the ID. The trick is you're going to be doing this stuff with an application. Like you're not going to be doing this stuff by hand. At first you are, because you're doing the database. But when you're running an app and you're running a filter and you're actually using this data, it's like easy enough to use the IDs. You know, the computer doesn't care if it's an ID or a name. The computer just matches the field. So I think that might be the little break there. Like what you have in the database is perfect and done. Like that's all you need for relational records. And you can actually do anything on the front end now with that. Like there's like you're set up to be versatile and do whatever you want. So maybe the next step really is like, how do you create those with the application? And then how do you read those records and filter those records with the application?
Yeah, you definitely need to make a UI to do what you just did manually, right? What you went and did and like copied and pasted the IDs around. What you should do is make a UI where on the creator record, like on that card where you're seeing the creator, or if you like click on the creator and it opens it into a bigger maybe edit page or something like that. In that context of I'm inside this creator record, you then have an action to create that relationship record, right? So select a tag, then you have your ID and you have the context of the creator ID, you click add, and that creates that record that you just manually created. And then you can put like an X on it to delete that record out. So then the management is through UI, not through, but as Emmanuel said, we need a way. It's really not that. It's not a hard thing for us to do. We just need to get to it. Like in the Bildr data collection UI, that column where you just pasted the IDs in, we basically needed to make that column a new column type where you could go in the other one. Yeah, in here, like what the way that I want to do this in the studio is if you were to have the option to change the NFT ID or creator ID field type to be a relationship, right? Where then you just select from the other one, you basically map the field. You say, this creator ID is tied to the creator's collection, and the display I want to show here is the name. So then what you would see here is the name, but it's storing the ID. So then you could come in here and really easily do this inside this UI without having to make the UI in the first place.
I
But
guess
it's
the
just
other
not in
way
here.
would just be like to go in here. Like, let's say I had like 100 of these, and then I would probably just go up to search and then paste
Yeah.
that ID, and then it'll pull it up. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly. And that's some of the parts about building that UI. Like I would want to make it searchable both by the name and the ID or whatever field you have mapped. So I would actually be keeping both values and all kinds of stuff that I would do extra in there to make it to where you can easily find those things. But yeah, that's exactly right. Copy and paste that ID and you'll find the whole set of them.
Okay. So I'm just going to have a ton of data collections. Just fine. That's what I needed. I appreciate it very much. And I will start. I mean, UI sounds like just a fantastic idea that way. So, okay. Well, I'm good. Then I'll keep filling around.
Hey, Kyle, I know that you had made a comment in Discord that you were working through responsiveness. Is there something we can help you in regard to that, or do you want to maybe try and tackle that later?
I mean, I guess my only request would just be like, if this was, well, I guess it kind of is responsive in a way.
This is an interesting topic, actually, because in the studio, a lot of people come in and they want these pages to be responsive. And in the way that responsive design and media queries work in browsers, that wouldn't be natural, basically. So we don't do it like what you're seeing there is it's responsive if you have something as a percentage width, but it's not actually being responsive. It's not listening to media query breakpoints, which is kind of like the heart of responsive design. So what you really need to do is always have the preview window open. And if you do, I don't know if you're familiar with the web inspector, but if you right click in the preview and inspect, there's like a little toggle in the top left of there. It's like devices. So there's like a little phone and tablet icon. Yeah. So this is what I just have this open at all times, and you can shrink and grow that window, and you can change. There's a little drop down. So you can say iPhone 12 size or iPad size, whatever.
That's exactly how I've been dealing with it. And I don't know if it's a feature, but it kind of acts that way, because I actually kind of like building in the browser better as as I'm looking.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because it's actually a direct real life view of what it's going to look like. So like if we try to do that in the studio and match it, we would be like faking it because it's not how the browser works. So it might not be perfect. This is like a perfect true to life representation. It updates live. And really, like for me anyway, like coming from a development background, that's how I do it anyway. Like when you code, you're not seeing a visual representation. So you're always going back and forth to that browser. So if it always felt natural to me, but I definitely prefer it just in a separate browser.
No, I do like it. I do like it. So, okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kyle. All right. So somewhat related to this, Jeff, if you are ready to come up, he's got some relational database questions as well. So come on up, Jeff. What do you got?
It will actually take me a minute to pull up my studio. Sorry.
I can actually.
I don't want to make you wait.
If you want to pull it up in a second, I can answer Ray's question here. So there's a question on Xano.
What's the question?
I wanted to not forget. Anyway, it says, would we suggest that people who want more advanced data relationships should use something like Xano? And my answer to that is, if you are new to data, or you don't, you feel like you don't know like how to do a lot of things and you're gonna have to learn, then something like Xano would be easier in that way. Like you can make the relationships easier and it's more of like a visual UI. But as far as like actually like feature complexity, whatever, like you can do everything you need to do in Bildr 100%. So like I have a background where I knew databases, but me coming into Bildr, I would always prefer Bildr to Xano. But at the same time, like I'm making relational tables without thinking, like I'm just doing it. I don't have to like wrap my head around that for like a lot of people do for the first time. So that's where the distinction comes in. It's Xano adds like some extra complexity when you go to do other things sometimes. I mean, Xano's a better example because we have actions for Xano, but it's like usually if you can stick the builders built in, you're saving yourself some hassle. So yeah, that's my answer basically. If that makes sense.
All right.
Okay, it is up. So
you ready?
can I share my screen? Oh no. System preferences doesn't want me to share my screen. Sorry.
That is all good. Sometimes it'll make you close out of the meeting and rejoin.
That is what it's going to do.
Okay.
All right. Well,
we'll see you shortly.
Be right back.
Okay. Okay, cool. So it looks like we've got after Jeff's question, we can help let's see. Emmanuel's got a question. Anusha needs some help. And then George, were you still wanting later to go through the URL route stuff that you're working through? Yes. Okay, awesome. So we'll make time for that too. All right. Good. That makes me happy. Got some good stuff to troubleshoot today. Was anyone at consensus? I think you guys went, well, apparently we missed out because there was like Wu-Tang showed up to one of the events and just like played a show just randomly. And I was like at home doing nothing. And I had like a ticket to go. Oh, Jeff, you're back already.
Okay, I think this will work. Oh, yes. Okay.
That's funny, right? Okay.
Okay, so this is, I've built what I think is a relational database. I'm not sure if it's not quite working the way I want it to. So this is kind of an LMS where we have courses, and each course is part of a path. So the idea is you have maybe 3 courses on the way to completing a path, like a learning pathway type of thing. So what I want to do is when I set a path on a course, I want the database to check that path and make sure that there aren't too many courses already in that path. So right now I've set the limit to be three courses per path. So so I want to make sure that we don't already have 3 courses, and then set the course into that paths record. I already have it setting into the courses record. So the course is fine. I can I set this drop down, and and what it does is it tells the course, it updates the course record and says this course is now part of this path. And now I want to go to the path and just say, okay, we've got these 3 slots. Oops. So here are the paths that I've got set up right now. We have got these 3 courses, and if they're all full, then just return a result that says no, you can't add that course to this path. If there's an empty slot, fit it into there. So when I do that, I've been trying a bunch of different ways, and I'm having a hard time getting it to set the path. If that makes sense. So the way that I'm doing it right now is this path. When the drop down changes, and I think I'm messing up somewhere up in here, because I've tried to take out as many of the, like I've tried to make the value be pizza just to make sure that I wasn't checking the field was blank incorrectly. I've tried to take out as many of the different variables, make it all kind of hard coded in. And what ends up happening is when I run this, it returns if false, it goes all the way to it sets this. So it just skips to that every time.
Yeah, I think I see what the problem is. If you go back to that action, it's just the output, because you're expecting a value, and right now it's returning it in array and an object. So up above, you actually want to set that to comma separated, and the number of records would just be 1. And then that should do it.
And that's basically like, that's going to come out as a value. So yeah, if you want to test if it's blank, yep, you just leave that blank.
So then what I need to do is go into here and just take this out. And run this. It's gonna make me sign in.
Look at you hacking your own way to get around
How have I
testing.
not seen that before?
Well, it might not work. So
Yeah, depends on the
It
route.
worked in
If
theory.
if the route requires authentication, then it won't go to it, you know?
that's that. I thought I could get through it.
This is usually my hack. I come into the routes and just change the authenticated route to something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that. No, it still didn't
We'll need
set.
to
Oh,
go
but I-
see where it's doing the save to it, just to make sure.
Yeah, and that set RC1 flow.
Do I need to set this to come separated as well?
No.
Oh, yeah, the setup is wrong. So up above, the type needs to go
All right.
to, because the first argument, you're just selecting the data collection, which is just the ID
Mhm.
collection. So at the top right, there's that little drop down where it says data collection. You actually want to toggle that. I think go down, it's under project structure. And it's data
Called
collection.
data collections.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's confusing on our end, not your fault for sure.
Yeah. And
Oh,
then
okay.
so this would be paths. Because all you're saying on that first one is what data collection are we targeting? And then the record to update here, first we need to provide the ID so we know which specific record we're updating. And
mhm.
then we'll update the actual value. So this will go back to JSON object under advanced.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's a small bug, but if you just reselect the action on the left, just click on it. Yeah, click
Right
there.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then now that way it doesn't force you to select the data collection. So click into
okay.
that field. So the first field will be the ID. And we'll need
Okay.
to get the ID of the record we're trying to update. I'm not sure where you have that.
So this is going to be the path ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can actually just grab that from. Oops.
Oh, right. The select, that's the list of the paths. Yeah, perfect. And then the next thing we'll map is the field where you're storing the required course one.
Okay.
And then the value that you're going to put in there.
Scroll down a little more. Okay, I had this. So this, I want this to be the current record.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Come on, there we go. So this needs to just be the course ID.
Cool.
Okay,
Now let's try it.
oh, look at that.
There it is.
Okay, and then I can just copy that for all the other ones.
Yeah, you'll need to do the same adjustments to all the other 2 and 3.
Yeah. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yay, Jeff. Thank
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for letting us show that. Excellent. So are you good, Jeff?
Yes,
Awesome.
definitely.
All right, I'm just going to keep steamrolling ahead because it looks like we actually have several people that need help today. So we'll try, once something clicks for you, I'll move on to the next one. So we can try and help as many people today as we can. Okay. All right. So next up, let's see, we've got Emmanuel's got a question. I think we had George who needed some help with URL routes. So George, let's go through yours real quick, and then Emmanuel, we can get to yours, and then Josh has some questions, and then Micah needs help. And then Anusha, we have Anusha as well. So George, are you ready to chat? And then Anusha, can you go ahead and get your screen or whatever you need ready so that we can answer your question or look at your issue after George?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. All right, George, what you got?
Okay, so I tried to set up something that illustrates this very quickly. It's not quite done, but I will still do it anyway. I gotta move some stuff
That's the
around.
spirit.
Do desktop one, share, boom, drag, and big. So can you see my desktop here? Okay, so what I want to be able to do is, so I have a navigation thing that has, nav, home, privacy, and about, right? Then I have 3 pages: home, about, privacy. And each one of these right now has an event, nav home, right? And you go to nav home and it loads in, opens a page into the container, main page, section content. And I presume that doesn't work. I didn't actually wire up privacy, but I think I'm going to do nav privacy and nav about. This is where I was when I was called on. So we got to go here to about and an open page about into the main page. And if I'm doing anything here that looks squirrely to anybody, please let me know. Then we're going to add another action here. Open page into container v2. Now we want to open the privacy page. This is all just set up for my actual question. No, I don't need privacy page. I need main page. And go into the section content, and let's just hope this works real quick.
It looks like it'll work.
Yeah, it should work. Preview.
I think the question is, it's not updating the URL, right?
Right. So here I go to home, privacy, about. Not exactly what I expected, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so now I don't have any routes at all configured here. So I don't know, what I want to be able to do is that when you click on home, right, I want it to just go to slash. I want this to be where it is right now. Or I want this to be what it is right now, the slash. If I go to privacy, I want this. If I go to privacy, I want this to be slash privacy.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I go to about, I want this to be about. And the reason for that is so that people can do deep links and link directly to the pages, and I can do URLs, but I can still have the advantage of sort of the SPA kind of experience where the navigation here is quick and shares the headers and all the.
That was my question when I was watching is, do you specifically want the SPA setup?
I want an SPA experience. Now, whether it actually is an SPA where where if I have to load the URL and actually reload the page, I could do that, but I'd rather not have the flash and all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's much easier if you reload the page, and like if you use components for a header, for example, it's pretty easy to edit, and it's decently fast loading. If you make it fast loading, basically, if you don't have huge images or something. But if you want to keep it as an SPA, which in case people don't know is like a single page application where it's not actually ever refreshing the page, but all the content's changing. There's a way to control the URL routes, and there's an action that we have in the studio. What is it called? It's probably called set history state or something. In JavaScript, this is called the history API, where you change the URL.
Yeah.
So it adds a layer of complexity when you're building a SPA to manage it, because you basically have to manage it manually. So what you do is on the action where you're loading the content into that container, You also run a set history action, which yeah, you can do it. I can tell you what to put in.
So do nav home. Okay, so well, let's do
Yeah, do
about
privacy or
because that's-
about, yeah.
That's what we care about. Okay,
So this action stays, and then add another action. And I think if you type history in a search, we'll find it. I just can't remember exactly. Yeah, so put history push URL state. And in this one, that top one state to push, actually, you don't need to care about that. But this is where, when I talk about handling everything manually, you might come back and end up using this. For now,
Okay.
like title doesn't actually matter, but you might use it if you wanted something custom. Really what matters is URL at the bottom there.
mm-hmm.
You can just type /about or whatever you want it to be. You might have to be just about. We'll find out. I say type
Okay.
/.
So if I just said about,
Well, no, you don't just leave those blank because that's
I'll leave
state
them blank?
JSON array. So basically, this action is just mirroring the JavaScript, like what you need in JavaScript code. So if you know code, this action makes sense. We
Mhm.
haven't quite made it like visual design friendly yet. So like we would maybe change those names or add some descriptions there. But
Well, this
for
would
now,
change the actual title. So
it actually
about,
won't, I don't think. That's like the title of the window. So that if you want to target that window again later or something, there's like something weird. Like I don't think it
Is
oh, yeah,
that,
maybe-
is
maybe
it
it'll
like
change.
a blank or
try it
something
for
like
sure.
that?
No.
It might change the title now that you say that. I really don't know. I didn't think it did, but you know, the way I build anyway is I just try stuff. So
Okay, let's try it.
yeah.
And then, okay, and let's do another one just because we want to see it change. So history, push URL state. This is going to be privacy. And let's say my app privacy. Okay. And let's see. Does this do anything? Well, that doesn't change.
You might need to refresh. I don't know if
Yeah, I might need to.
you're not supposed to need to, but sometimes it happens.
Okay.
There you go.
Privacy. About, oh. You
But
are a
here's the
genius,
trick.
my
So
friend. It's
you got
beautiful.
that to work, but that's not going to do the deep linking yet. You know what I mean? So if you type in /about,
Right.
the app's not going to know. So there's another whole
Right.
like step where when the page loads, you need to read that URL and
Yeah.
you need to do a condition to like, you know, whatever, to switch the content manually or whatever you need to do.
And I actually tried that. So how do you do that? So if I do, let's say on the, would this be like on the main page or the header page? Where would
Yeah,
that?
better?
Yeah, I would
should
do
be
it
on
in
the
header.
header?
That way it's just on
Okay.
the page. Makes sense.
And then on a page load,
Yep.
and then I would want to do a what?
So I think the way you'll ultimately want to do it is a condition switch action.
Okay.
If you search condition, there's two types. There's compare and switch. Yeah, you did
Right.
switch. And so
Okay.
this first thing, this test value, that's where you're going to need to get the URL. So
I want to get the request.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, this is actually kind of weird because I tried segment number and I tried segment 0.
Yeah, that's
it
what it
doesn't-
should be.
That's what it should be.
Seem
Yeah.
to do it. So maybe I'm just wrong. Okay. Flow to run if no patch is found. I'm just going to go there.
Yep.
And if I'm matching,
So this would
About.
just be like type the word about, no slash.
okay.
Yep.
And
And then,
then I would do nav about and then add. And I hope we don't get into a weird recursion situation here.
hopefully not.
Yeah, there's after you get this and you see that there's one more step that I actually usually layer in addition to this that we can to read it to kind of prevent the recursion, and you always use the same set of steps. But let's do this first and then I'll show you how that works.
See where the recursion, if it's going to bite us. All right, let's refresh here. Okay.
So if you just try typing in about in the top, it should, yeah, just go like about here and hit enter. And it should take you to about.
About page. Okay, nice. So
So
it's not really
there's-
recursive at this point, is it? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it should be now. 'Cause
No.
it's just doing it once on load.
Yeah, there's another way. So there's sort of two ways to do this. One way is you've got it separated, right? Where you have this on click, it does one thing, on, page load, it does another thing. There's another action that you can add in the page load that what it does is it basically sets an event listener on that page. And that event listener then listens for the change to the route in the top. So when you click the button, it changes the route in the top, and then you run back through the same switch condition to decide where to go next. And the only reason to do that, and I can't remember the name of the action, Dorian or Drew, do you remember the name of that action that sets the
I'll search for bind,
event? Is it bind?
because that's what you're doing. You're binding it, right? No.
No,
It's run flow. Maybe it's not run flow when element scrolls out, but it's similar to that one. So maybe run flow when URL changes or something.
Yeah, it's set URL state
set
change
URL
listener.
state change listener.
Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah. And what it'll do, so what I would usually do is I set that condition switch into its own flow, and I call it like, condition dash route or something like that. And then I
So-
set that event listener to run.
So let's do it. So we got a condition route.
Yeah.
Is this where
And
it
then
goes?
And
Okay.
then no, go get the condition out of the page load. The one that you had in the page load, just copy it.
This, okay,
Copy that switch. Yep. And you can delete it from here.
okay, and put it in
And then
here.
you paste it in here, and then nest this into the page load. Yep, you can go ahead and nest.
This,
Mhm.
okay,
And then also in the page load, add that state listener.
oh,
So
okay,
go
so
add
add it
action
here
here.
or in condition
Mhm.
route?
In
want
the
these-
page load, in the page
Okay.
load, because you want on page load, basically you want to, all that action does is sets a listener. And so in here, now what you want to do is run the flow, and then, yep, current page is fine. And then choose condition route on change. Okay, so all that action does here,
Mhm.
the run flow on URL state change, that just sets the listener for the page. So now the page is just going to be listening for that URL state to change. And now so what it does, you don't have to do this method at all. But the reason I like this method is because then I have this condition route, which is where everything runs through. So I run
Okay.
it on page load. And then when you click nav-about, all I do in there is set, like I have two actions, one to set the route and another one that actually opens the things. And I know it adds complexity, but for me, at least later on, whenever I come back to this and I just want to add another one, it's like I have one thing that just sets the route and another one that basically opens whatever it's supposed to do during that route. So it adds this like chain in between. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm describing it very well.
Let me see if I can run it back to you. So what this does, this here actually runs a condition on page load. So when you're coming here from any URL, it'll run and it'll look to see if the segment has any of these entries in it, and then it will navigate again. Now that nav again will not rerun the page load, right? Or will it?
When you mean like when they click the button?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
condition switch,
Oh.
this flow, right? Nav about,
Well,
it's not
the-
going to rerun the page load.
It
is
will
it?
not rerun the page load. No.
It'll
but-
run the page load on the page that is opening on the about page,
correct.
but it won't run the page load on the
On the
calling
header.
page.
But
Okay.
because of the way we just set this up, we actually just created a loop. So what would happen now is when that history push state happens,
Mhm.
there's a listener now running that's listening for that state. And then it's going to go run the condition again. And then it's going to find about again. And then it's going to run, open the page again. Like if you go to that page and refresh right now, it's going to just loop through. If you go to over here.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what to do, but I think maybe just sticking with that first solution would be the way
Yeah,
to go here. I
you
think this is
absolutely
like a more
can.
advanced scenario that if you could use it to your advantage, but it's not, you don't need to do this.
And the
Doesn't seem like it's
reason,
breaking.
the only reason to do it that way, the reason that I
Mhm.
split it out like that and have a listener is because then I have this, like on my homepage, I have this one condition that just opens the pages. That's all it does. It doesn't set the history state inside that same action.
Hmm.
And then what I can do is from anywhere in my app, I can just set the history state,
Mhm.
just like set the route to
Just
about,
do it.
and it just does everything else from the home.
You've already got that though, actually, because you're putting it on the header page. So from any page to open a link, you can just do run flow on page and then run nav about to open the about page, and it'll do the same things. You actually have that covered in the
Well,
center.
but what it doesn't do is give you the back button. So the reason to do the listener with the state change is because if you don't have that, if the user hits back, the browser doesn't trigger that condition again because it's only running inside of the page load, which doesn't happen on the back because you set the history.
Yeah.
So to get the back and forward button to work like a true SBA, you
Mhm.
have to set that listener, and that means you have to like separate all these actions into different flows. And for me, at least, it's like logically, it makes more sense to me. Anytime that route changes, the listener then runs the condition, and I can then just set that route from anywhere in my app, and that's all I have to do. And everything else just runs through the same flows. And then the browser will, you literally just go backward, forward, and it's just going to handle the whole thing. But if you don't care about that true SBA back and forward, then the original way you had it is like way, way easier because it's just, it mimics it, but the browser won't actually do the back.
Hey, guys, we have several more people in the queue. Is it okay if we move on? George, do you think you have enough to kind of chew on and for a little bit until next time?
I do. Great. This was perfect. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Okay, Anusha, you are up. When you are ready, please share your screen and then walk us through the issue that you're having with the input, please. And welcome to Bildr. Anusha is new to Bildr. Oh, you're muted. So you may want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Actually, I'm scared today.
That's okay. I'm pretty
Actually,
scared
the
most of the days.
Yeah, discussion here going on is way far away from my doubt. Like,
Don't worry, everyone starts at a beginning spot. Like George is doing stuff way more advanced, and when he just started, it was not that way. Everyone starts the learning curve, but what
Oh,
he's
I was
now is
really
awesome.
frustrated.
Yeah.
When I started, really frustrated.
It's great to see the evolution. So yeah, go ahead. No worries. There's no dumb questions, no anything.
nothing like, yeah, fine. Thank you then.
Mhm.
Oh, hope my screen is visible, no?
Yes.
Oh, the problem I'm facing here is when I enter this form, no?
It's the limit. I already know.
I don't have any idea.
No,
Is
no,
that
no.
the thing?
You go ahead, Anusha.
Hey, okay, fine. But when I go to this database, but few fields are not visible actually. So here it's empty.
So it's probably not what you were thinking, right, Cora? If it's adding the record, it's just some fields are blank.
No, I
Unless-
think it's
Unless
a
those,
mapping.
unless those fields didn't get saved in the mapping, can we go to the action that
Yeah.
gets triggered when the save occurs?
Actually, I'm using the SaaS template here.
Yeah.
I think you have to go through flows to find it in the top left next to the elements tab. There's a flows tab. Yep.
Yeah.
And in the action dash create customer is where it's actually getting saved. So this
Oh,
is
I
where
see.
it's creating the record.
The event binding doesn't get set on this, it validates. That's why.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, can y'all explain it to Anusha in beginner terms and walk her through what she needs to do?
Yeah, let's see what this does. So right now we have the email field map. Can you keep going down? And let's see if we can find the field for phone, just as the first example. So keep going down. So archive, keep going, then the company. Yeah, it looks like it's the new fields are not in here, and it probably is hitting the limit when mapping those. Did you come in here and map those fields, or?
Where I have to go now? Like,
So on
Sorry,
this.
I don't think she's come in here. Yeah, I don't think
Gotcha.
she's been in
Yeah,
here
okay,
yet. Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Do you want to go over that, or?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You got
okay.
it.
So basically what we need to do is, so you added those new fields. So you have the phone number, skills, the education details, and the work experience. And what we need to do is we need to tell this create record action to map, about those fields and map the values to it, so that when this runs, it actually captures the values and sends it to the database. So on this action, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be a link that says plus map a field, and you're going to click that. So the first field, we want to select the phone. So it's that phone number. And then in the value to bring, the second select menu where it says element name, one below, that one's correct. You'll leave it as current page is fine.
okay.
Yeah. This one, yeah, click in there, and we now need to find the input for that phone number. So it should be that one there, phone number. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that will take care of that one. Now we need to map another field for the skills.
So maybe before, go over and just create the record like that, just so you can kind of see, like, basically every field you add here is going to now be added to the record whenever it gets created. So if you map just one of them, then it would add just the phone number into it. And if you add all of them, it'll add all of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, sure.
and then there's one issue, right? We're going to go through the limit.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Cool.
actually, okay, fine. I will do this and get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, so
Well-
Anusha, just to recap as a beginner, so if you add fields onto the form that you want to be saved, you're going to
Okay.
the data create record action for the thing that actually creates the customer, right? And you're going to map those fields, right? You did correctly add the fields in the data collection, and you added them
Okay.
in the form, and now you just kind of need to connect them together by mapping the field, right, to grabbing the value from the input on the form. And then this is what you're doing here. So you'll do that with each one of those. What the guys are going to talk about is there's a little bug that we have where sometimes if you map a lot of fields, you'll come back to this data create record action, and some of those fields will be missing. And that's because it hits a limit with the way that the JSON is stored. So then what you have to do is you have to create another data create record. Is that right,
That's
guys?
an update.
Update
Oh, I'm
record.
sorry.
I would say though, you might not run into it here. Really, that's only 6 fields, right? You might not hit that bug.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we just go ahead and map them and then see if we run into it. And if we do, we can show you how to do the second action. So let's map that second field, which was the skills.
Yeah.
Where is that? Or
Did you create a field for that in the data?
Or is that in the, do you want that in the notes maybe, or?
No, yeah. Actually, I didn't change that name to skills. I'll
Gotcha.
select.
So yeah, you can select that skills in the second dropdown, select that skills text box.
Exactly.
Because you're getting the value, this mapping, you're choosing a field in the database and then you're saying, give it some value. It's pre-selected on get it from an element on the page. So you're just choosing whichever element you want to take the value from.
Yep,
The,
that's correct.
the order can kind of be confusing. Like intuitively, I would think it would be the input first and then you select, but this little section here where it says from value, it's saying from the current page, this is the element that you should grab the value from. And then you're grabbing the value. It's just the order of it can kind of be confusing, but once
It's
again,
the correct format, no? I mean, yeah, I'm getting confused actually.
mhm. Okay, so the right now what you did is you mapped what they're putting into the skills input. You're mapping that into the notes field that you have because there wasn't a field for skills. Do you want a specific field for skills?
Yeah, I want that also.
Okay, then you need to go into the data collection, add skills, and then come in here and you can update the mapping.
Okay, fine. Got it.
Mhm.
Perfect. And that'll update in the action. It's already going to be linked up and you're good to go.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're going to leave that as current page.
Yeah.
And it'll be the second input.
And then the last one would be the education details. Yep. And then let's do one thing. Let's see if we hit the save limit. Where it says data dash create record there on that little panel. It's on the right panel, but it's kind of highlighted. I don't know if you see that. If you just click where it says data dash create record, a little to the left.
It's where you see the list of
That one, yeah.
actions in the flow.
Or- oh, no. Go to the right panel. There.
Yeah.
Just click that again, just to reselect it. And then let's scroll through the fields and let's make sure everything's saved. So image, archive, good. Yeah, you can keep going.
Skills.
So phone number. Yeah, so we did hit it. It only saved the phone number. Okay, so that's the issue that Cora was explaining. But the way to get around this is we need to add another action. And if you click on the plus add action button at the top and type in here update record.
In that search.
Yeah, in the search. So or type the word update. And yeah, that one there. And it's going to add it to the bottom, but what we want to do is we want to drag it to be the second action.
You can just drop. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Yeah. And one small thing we need to do is after that first action, do you see the text where it says don't wait? We're going to click on that text so that we toggle it to wait. So it's in that little panel there. Yeah, right above that, the one in between the two actions. So the one above it. It's right after the data dash create record. So a little bit higher. That one.
Yeah.
This one, okay.
Yeah, because what we needed to do is it's first going to run that first action, which is going to create the record. Then we need it to wait, so it finishes creating the record. Then the next thing that's going to happen is the update record. And the reason we need it to wait is because we need the ID that gets generated when a record is created, because we need to use that ID in the update record so that we update the correct record. So with this action, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be that variable at the bottom there, if you can copy that where it says new customer ID, just highlight that and copy it. And then now on the left there, if we click on the second action, the data dash update record. So for the data collection, it's going to be, this was candidates, right? And the first field we're going to select is the ID, because we need to tell it what record to update. And for the new value, do you see where it says text and it has like a little drop down arrow? It's like, yeah, click that. And we're going to change that to the second option, which is from variable. So if you scroll up a little bit, yeah, from variable, and current is correct. And in the variable name, we're going to paste the value we copied. Yeah, so that's now going to map to the same record we just created. And now we can click on the plus map a field. And in here, we're going to map the rest of the fields. So the last one that saved on the first one was phone number. So with this one, we can start with skills. And then the value is going to come from element value. Yep. Current is correct. Let's select the skills field. Perfect. Now let's map the next one, which is education details. Yep. And then again, from element value.
Anusha,
then-
look how much faster you're moving in just like 5 minutes.
And then the second or the third one is going to be the work experience. And then from element, and let's find the work experience input. Yep. And then that should do it. That should work now. So now it should capture every field.
Okay, we'll see that.
Yeah. Okay, and let's go look at the database. I think,
it's that top one, right? If you scroll to the top.
Yeah.
yeah, it's the top one. So yeah, looks like it's all there now.
Yep. Thank you so much for that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Anusha, so you just needed to map the fields in the action that
Yeah.
was running to save that record, that candidate. And then we had a little bug, which you found a workaround for, and that was to use the update record action to then be able to map those additional fields. So very well done.
Thank you. From the morning, I'm facing this problem actually. Today itself, I started working with this Bildr. Yeah. I was like scared much how I can get help for this.
Yeah, and we do this every week, Anusha, and also in our Discord, anything that you come across, like just chat us in there.
Actually, I have one doubt. Can I ask now? I mean, all this data, is this possible to retrieve it to the Airtable database? Is this like,
Is
how
it
can I do that? The same data, what it is storing in this Bildr database, no? I want to retrieve it to the Airtable database.
Yeah, you can do that. It's like there's an action that we have in the studio that like specific Airtable actions. So if you wanted to
Okay.
double it, literally like kind of like back it up in Airtable, you can just run an Airtable. Every time you save to this database, you can also run an action to save to Airtable. But if you wanted to like go a step further, you could use only an Airtable database and not even use this database if you wanted. But each of those things has its own, quirks and complexities. Like there's a couple steps there, but.
And Anusha, we are over time here, so
Yeah, sure. Okay.
if you ask in the Discord, I can share some tutorials with you, some Airtable
Yeah,
tutorials. And
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anusha.
Thank you.
Guys, are you do we have a hard stop right now? Because I know we had a few more questions, and we're already at 11:12.
I'm down to keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
going.
okay, all right. Okay, so next up, let's see if they are still on the call. We had Emmanuel. Yes, Emmanuel, you were asking about connecting a grid item to an edit form. Are you ready to show us? Okay,
Sure.
go for it.
Yeah, so hopefully this will be really quick, and I apologize if it's in the SaaS thing, the SaaS app.
See it get used. This is awesome. That's what it's for.
Where is my preview? Okay, context. So I've built this kind of grid thing here, and I can create a new block by simply clicking there. The panel comes up. Anything I add in here, and let's say for row 2, and I create it, and it gets created. And once I refresh, I'll show up. I know it can do that stuff. I haven't gone there yet. What I want to do is click on this and have it's open up with the details in here, so that I can then do an update on it. So that's the ask. What is the best way to do that, or the easiest way to do that? And I think when I try to think about it, what sticks me up is the fact that this is the individual block, which is in a grid row, which is then in another grid row, which shows up there. So I didn't know where the action goes. Does it go on
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
It would be on the first one, the grid row block, the
Okay.
action here, and probably on that outer div, is unless you want a specific link, but I would probably just throw it on the outer, so
Sure.
where you click. So on here, on the click, if you click in that select on the right, you can just do new flow. And then you can just name it however you want to
Yep.
name it. And what you want to do is open page into container, right? And I think we want to, yeah, that one there.
Mhm.
Cool. So where's I'm assuming it's on the root, the little slide out container that you're trying to open it into.
Yeah, it's on this, correct.
Okay, so on the action, we'll select that page. Oh, actually, this is the page, sorry. So on here, we're gonna select the edit form.
Edit form.
Yeah,
5 new block form.
Yeah.
Block 5, yep.
yeah. And then here, now we're targeting the container. So on the container, we're gonna select the home page. And then we'll select the actual container.
Okay, so then I'll need to change the on the master with the slide out, right?
Yeah, yeah. What's the name of that page?
Visual line grid. Visual line grid, yep.
Yep.
Selected.
And then let's find the container.
Right panel inner component, this one, yeah.
Can we open that into a component? I've actually never tried that.
Yeah,
I think we'll need to select the inner, right?
inner.
Drew, you're muted.
You can open it to a component. I do that all the time.
You can, okay, then select the component. That way we don't lose it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then the record context, we're gonna click in there. And we're just gonna select current record. Okay, and then there's one more thing we need to do. We need to add another action called run flow on page. And this is gonna be used so that we can call the action that slides that in and out. So it'd be, yeah, that one there. And then the page will be that main page again. Yeah, that one. And on here, do you have an action that already slides that lightbox in? Probably
Yes.
that little lightbox.
The light box, there we go.
Yeah, and can we go look at that? I just want to see what that does. Go to the other page, the main page. Yeah. Yeah, click on that and let's go to the flows and show me the show lightbox. Okay, that should do it. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't also opening the new record. So yeah, if you want to try it, I think that should get it.
I think you should try this, but I think one thing is that the page he loaded in was new page, not edit page. So you might have to actually create.
Oh,
a page
gotcha.
next, but this should like slide open. We'll at least make sure it's halfway there. Or it won't.
Yep, no, I did it.
Okay, so you already have it set up. Nice.
Excellent. All right, that should hold me for a few days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dude, you're ahead of me. I just assumed you wouldn't have the part set up. You already have it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Emmanuel. Okay, so Micah, are you still around? Do you still need help with something? I think you had asked if there was time. And then I think after that, if we have any time, we've got Dominic. So Micah. Calling Micah up. Otherwise, we're going straight to Dominic. Okay. You snooze, you lose. Dominic, are you on the call? Am I muted?
I mean, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I guess you guys can reach out in Discord and we'll see if we can help you then. So I guess we'll just call it for today. Thank you everyone for joining the call and making this a great troubleshooting session. If you have, would someone just chime in? No? Okay. If you have anything else, chat us in Discord. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you, Mark, Dorian, Drew, and everyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.